Howdy, how y'all doing? Welcome to Momo's Covered. Today's video is going to be about aloes, a succulent that is basically throughout the United States, a lot of parts throughout the world. So, been questions being asked how you take care of them, how, what to do about watering, placement, all that. So we're just going to get into that. Now, before I do, people have, misconception that there's only like a couple of types of aloes, and you hear the word, okay, it's all for medicinal. Well, that's not true. There's actually over 550 species of aloe. Now, the main one that's used for medicinal that I'm aware of, now I could be wrong, but as far as I know, I've only known maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 species that can be used as medicinal purposes. The number one is the aloe vera right here. Now, the other types, there's another one I can think of is aloe is another type. It's not really as used as the aloe vera because aloe vera tends to have a little bit more benefits for folks to help out. Of course, like this species, like this right here, this particular plant right here. It's grown pretty well. It's already been through a season and a half, and it's grown pretty well. We had it as small as a pup right here when we got it. Now this one's not healthy. I'm gonna tell you right now. When you see healthy, they're kind of firm, and the spikes are pretty well defined. Now they're not gonna stab you or anything like that. There might be 1 or 2 that do, but most parts they're pretty flexible, but they're pretty stiff. The coloration is going to be more defined, that it's healthy, that you can actually use. Now, if you show these two here, we got the older, more mature. Now, granted, this past frost we had caused a little issues, but they're more mature and they're more hardy to where they can handle it. Now, temperature-wise, you want to keep it between 55, 60, up to maybe 80 to 85, depending on your area. Your zones of where you're at. Now here, like we said before, we're 8. So here in Central Texas, and for those of you who are into the Celsius, 55 to 80 Celsius would be like 13 to 27 degrees Celsius. Okay. Those are usually the best temperatures for this plant. Now, placement for these plants, it's bet you can use it indoors or outdoors. The thing about having it indoors, you have to have indirect light or some sort of light that's constantly going to be on. Say you want to put it at a window, or where it gives a good amount of light, but it's not blaring heat on it, because aloes, as hardy as they can be, when they take a beating on the sun, you have issues with your plant, and the gel that's inside will not be as potent. Now, you can put it outside, but again, it has to be indirect, more on the shady side, not necessarily like on the eastern side, more like a south or southwestern side of your house, or an area to where you can have some sort of shade to where it won't be beat down. Okay. Now, like these things can get hardy, but when you have them, like if you have them planted outside, like here in the greenhouse, it's good to have. You can use that. But when you have it outside, you're gonna have to do some preparations. Like I said, it doesn't handle anything between 55 and 60. Below that, you got issues, because they'll start looking like this boy right here. Starts drying up. I mean, this is completely dry. This is from the past winter, and it starts getting limpy and mushy, like this one right here. It's kind of mushy. There's no, I mean, there's no meat into it. That's what they call meat, where the moisture sits in, and it's just, you know, it's no good. Usually try to, when they start, you know, even on more healthier, you know, when they start drying up and stuff, you know, you kind of want to get ready to harvest or move on to, you know, where you know it's not going to be that much meat on it. And they're pretty much not going to be useful. I mean, you can get a little bit, that's great, but the potency is not going to be there compared to the healthy. Now, people have asked, well, you know, how much water do I put in? Well, here's the deal. These are succulents. They are, they're the types that you don't have to water that often. Like say, during the summer. Now, depending on the area, again, if you're more on the northern sections and you have these aloes, you can go maybe as far as maybe a couple weeks without watering. But when you do, you give them a good heaping where they can soak in, and you don't have to water again. Now here down in Texas, I mean, even on the southern part of the state, you might have to do once a week. It just all depends on the moisture of the soil. And rule of thumb is whatever size you have here, like if it's what, 6 inches, you want to make sure that it dries up. You put your finger in a couple inches, and if you know it's dry, then you need to water some more. So time wise, it all depends on what moisture's left. Like in the pots, you may have to do sooner than a couple weeks. In the ground, depending on your soil, you know, if you have clay, certain soils, you know, you might have to water sooner. It just all depends. Once you get into it, you'll kind of know when it's time. Usually first timers, you know, they kind of real, you know, at it every day or every so days. Once you get into the habit of knowing your plant, you'll know when to water. Some people have asked me, you know, well, what kind of fertilizer? Succulents really don't need much fertilizer, to be honest. Maybe, during the spring, when the first spring, you put a certain fertilizer in. I haven't done it, and as you can see, you know, well, we've had like these two Hardys right here. They've come out pretty well. Maybe I'll put in some Epsom salt mix on the soil itself, and it's done well. Some people have asked, you know, well, I have this plant. What am I going to? How can I use it, and what to use it for? There's many uses. You got orally, you can use it. Some people use it for diabetes, obesity, osteoarthritis, as a laxative. Now, laxative, you got to be very careful. I really don't recommend it, just for the fact that you have two parts in this aloe. You have the gel, which is the meat right here, and then you also have the latex, which is the skin part just underneath here. Now that latex you don't want to have in your system, whether it's topical or internal, you know, or orally. You don't want to have that. That will make you sick as heck.
Is that the lime green? That's what color it is?
It's a yellowish lime green color, and it also has a smell. Now, there's a process to do it. My grams used to be able to process it, and we never had issues. So there's a process to having these and also using it either as medicinal, or even people use it for for smoothies, drinks, or whatever. And again, like I said, internally, orally, people use it for the diabetes. Use it as mouthwash when they get itchy rashes in the mouth. Now, I haven't heard anybody having it. Maybe it's not as common as it was, but they've used it for that. Again, if you got constipation, now this is I'm cautioning. It will make other than making you going from constipation to having the squirts. And y'all already know what I mean by that, but you have to be careful because it can cause a lot of other health issues that you don't need, which is why I don't really recommend as far as laxative. But I mean, the meat itself is very beneficial for a lot of reasons. They even stated in medical science that the meat itself, the gel, is very beneficial. Not complete, for skin, your hair. Again, people who have diabetes, now on diabetics, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're taking medicines like metformin, Genomix or something like that, something that's for diabetes, you're gonna have to be careful because when you take this, you cannot be really mixing it in with your medication because it will drop your sugar level way more low than it needs to be. Moving on, like I said, there's so many benefits. If y'all want to look it up, it'd be, even for, for your own conditions, whatever, if you have certain conditions, look it up and see what the benefits can be for you. Aloe has been known for a lot of, even commercial vitamins and stuff, they use aloe. So that's just something you want to check into. Now, like I said, we were showing, this is the more healthiest. Here's another one right here. It's pretty healthy. It's kind of lighter than this. Then again, this is getting a little more mature, but it's still got some good meat in it. Still pretty firm. And some people ask, well, what if they spread out like this? That's fine. It can look similar to this where it goes around, like say our mature ones right here, they're kind of set around. You'll have some that spread out like this. That's fine. Once it starts maturing, you'll see it start filling up as it should be. All right. Now again, we were showing the bads. Usually when they get too bad, where they're kind of dry, they're pretty much done. There's no saving it. That's the thing about aloes. Once they get to a certain point, I mean, people have tried it, cutting back and seeing coming back, and there's a small percentage that actually does, but for the most part, it won't happen. Here's another bad example right here. This one's pretty hollow. There's no meat in this. This one's pretty much done. I mean, it's got very little, but it's pretty much done. Usually when they get to that point, they're pretty much done. But like say, like this one right here, it got pretty kind of bad with it, but it's coming back. That where it's still kind of good and meaty, it's gonna come back. But once you get to the point where they're really completely dry, the meat's gone, and it's not really gonna come back to more healthier. Now, for some of you out there, if you have actually saved these, let me know. I learn something new every day. Otherwise, there's no reason to get out of bed. So some of you out there who's actually saved some of these, put in the comments, let us know, share the way we're sharing with you. And let's just, get to know them more, especially in your area. Now put down where your area is at, because not all areas are the same. We're more warmer out here than say up in Kansas. It just all depends. Now, the what people use for these plants, usually some people will just use any old dirt. That's fine, but however, you have to make sure that it is that the soil drains well. These suckers do not like to have their feet wet. You get their feet wet, you start looking mushy. They start drying up. That's because it's too much water. The succulents prefer to be dry for a while. You don't have to. It's not like a daily thing where you have to come in and water every day or every other day. You can wait a week and two, and it's fine. You know, these are desert style plants that can survive anything. But you know, as far as the heat's concerned or watering. Oh, excuse me. The soil has to be a well-drained potting mix. Now, people, you know, what you want to look for is a good mix that contains either perlite, lava rock, chunks of bark, you know, from trees. Even better, having a mixture of all three. Perlite, for some of you who may not know, we're just starting and I never heard that word before. It's an amorphous, I guess to say shapeless, volcanic glass. It has a high content that can soak up a high content of water. It's basically like it's used for industrial minerals. It's used quite a bit on different things, but plants, it's a natural soil additive is what it is. It improves the drainage, aeration, and growth. It's also some of you might know it as volcanic popcorn because it's kind of foamy. You'll see like little, if you ever buy a plant and you see little white spongy looking things, that is perlite. That is helpful, especially for plants like many other. There's quite a bit of plants that benefit from it. Aloes benefit from well because one, that's when you don't have to water so much, and it's just like little drips it gets to allow it to keep going. All right, so that's just a little FYI, you know, cool thing. Now, you don't have to put too much care into it, but you are going to have to watch out because these babies like to push pups out, which pups means little baby aloes. If you don't pay attention, you think, oh, no big deal. Let me show you what happens. You end up with this. And guess what? You're going to have to sit there. You're going to allow it to do this, whatever, but then, you know, it gets too overcrowded and they start dying off and then you have diseases. Which again, when you start overwatering, you can cause root rot for these plants. This is why they say wait a week or two. But when you have something like this, and this actually came from what, our neighbor? And they just let it go, and this is what happened. They'll start fighting with each other, and the roots itself, they'll choke each other. And then they'll start mushing up and start dying. So, and we could probably do this on another video about how to separate. You can separate, and we'll probably do another video, but you have to separate all these bad boys and you know, have more plants. So as far as any other questions, comments, I love to hear them. I answer what I can. If I miss something, like some of you more expert aloe folks out there, talk to me. I don't mind. I've only known from what my grands, my mother. That's all that grew. We had one that was over 30 years old. From the time I was little to, you know, I don't even know what happened to that sucker, but it was 30 years old, and it thrived and thrived and thrived. These suckers can last year after year after year. They've been around since before Christ. So they're very hardy for a lot of reasons, and beneficial wise, I mean, if you're more into the natural lifestyle, these could probably do you well. But yeah, pretty much. I mean, as far, like I said, we'll probably do a separate video as far as separating, doing on the plantings, and what to use. Like right here, like this isn't really a great. I have another one which disappeared on me. But if you want to keep moisture where you don't have to do water, these little pebbles are perfect to be around. It'll keep the moisture, but it also help to dry it out so quickly. Which I've used these pebble rocks a lot of times for, you know, even on other types of succulents or other types of plants, not necessarily succulents, and they've done well. They've hold the moisture. And that's the thing about, you know, when it comes to plants, it's the mulching, which could be rock, bark, hay, whatever. Something that helps the moisture allow your plants to thrive. Like I said, if there's anything else that you're thinking of, let me know. If there's something I've missed, let me know as well. Don't mind learning, or maybe I just forgot to bring it up. But anyway, y'all have a blessed day, and see you next time.